I can say that some of them are in 7 to 12 schools. We are doing, as part of the ongoing process, we're doing an evaluation of these centers, and that evaluation, I believe, will assist us in concluding where we need to proceed next with respect to this program. And it is an evaluation that will be done, of course, in consultation with my colleagues' department in health promotion. And it was, Mr. Chairman, if I might, I just might point out for visitors that we have today just where we are in the proceedings. It's been pointed out to me that a number of them are looking at seating plans, and they might come to the conclusion that the Deputy Minister of Education has undergone a transformation, and that I'm the Minister of Finance. We are in a we are in a stage of debate. For the benefit of those in the gallery, we're in a stage of debate where we're considering the estimates of each of the departments. And as the Minister of Education, it is my responsibility, as they can see the process go this morning, it is my responsibility to defend the expenditures of the taxpayers' money as presented in the budget. And of course, it is an opportunity for members of the committee to question me on how the Department of Education conducts its expenditures, both for the proposed year and for previous fiscal years. So the members of the committee have before them the details of the budget as presented by the Minister of Finance, and by examining those figures, they are able to ask me questions about the operations of my department, and it's appropriate for me to have officials from the department with me this morning, and that's where we are with respect to this stage of the debate. And I thank the honourable member for his time to make that explanation. Thank you.
Yes, and I thank the Minister of Education for that explanation, and we would like to also welcome our visitors and guests that are with us today in the gallery. And I maybe could just quickly mention that as well over at the Red Room we have similar debate going on relative to another department's budget. The member for Timberlea Prospect, and we'll add a few seconds on for taking away from his time.
Well, that's very thoughtful of you, Mr. Chair. I welcome our guests who are here today. This is an issue of some concern, of course, when it comes to education. I've been dealing with the issue of pilot projects and at times what teachers in my community say about them in terms of when it comes to developing curriculum and whether they are a worthy way of developing curriculum. For the guests here, when I had a real job as a school administrator, I can tell you, or as a school teacher, that it was a career that I valued and one I was fortunate enough to be involved in. Now, Mr. Minister, we've had an exchange this morning before I turn the remainder of my time over to the member from Halifax-Chebucto. However, I know we're going to have a difference now, and it involves the physically active lifestyle course. And I see the previous minister, and I know the Minister of Tourism and in his previous career. If there's no more smoke and mirrors course in the buffet table that students go to in high school, there is physically active lifestyle. A half-credit course that's compulsory that all students in high schools in Nova Scotia must take. And if there's any young people up in the gallery, or if anyone watching at home, I don't know why young people are at home today, but let's not go there. I want to know whether the minister can honestly say that physically active lifestyle as a course meets the expectations that this government has outlined, that Minister of Sports and Recreation, or Health Promotion, I should say, has outlined, that the Minister of Education, previous Minister of Education, has endorsed. Unless you have the access to proper curriculum, unless you're looking at the fact that physically active lifestyle, and I will use the example of the high school that I am fortunate enough to be the member for, Sir John A. Macdonald. We certainly don't have the facilities to offer physically active lifestyle. PAL at Sir John A. on a number of days is a walk in the woods. A walk in the woods. That's what they do because the school is so overcrowded. They cannot get the gym time, of course, because they have a, really, let's put it like it is, they have a junior high gym. Nothing wrong with junior high gyms, but this is a school that doesn't have the facilities to offer the physically active lifestyles course. Now, I am telling you that as far as I am concerned, that if this government and that Minister of Health Promotions is interested in getting young people into shape and having them aware, and I'm not just saying they're all out learning the rules of volleyball. I'm not saying that they all have to be out there and shooting pucks in the top corner like Al McGuinness. But I want you to know, Mr. Minister, that I firmly believe in the need for having, among the compulsory courses that the students get to choose from in this province, and I say it's like a buffet table. There's the meat and potatoes of math and English, and of course the compulsory courses, but then there are the other courses that I think at times can be perceived by certain students as almost desserts. And I won't get into what they are at the buffet table, but I honestly believe that one of the staples of a good high school education among the credit courses that these young people receive is a compulsory physical education course. One course that they can take in grade 10 or 11 or 12. One course in which they can be made aware of circuit training, that they can be made aware of the lifelong expectations that they have to have in a physically active lifestyle, but not the way PAL is currently being offered in this province, currently being offered at schools that do not have the facilities. I'm wondering if the minister could justify for me the PAL course in comparison to my party's recommendation for a compulsory physical education course in high school.
The Honourable, the Minister of Education.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I want to point out to the honourable member that the students at Sir John A. Macdonald will, in fact, have a high school gymnasium in the near future. Having said that, yes, Mr. Chairman. That's what the near future translates to in my language, soon. We've qualified that sufficiently for the time being. Mr. Chairman, I recall that at one juncture in my high school education that French was compulsory for me to study. And I did what I could with it, and I studied it. And it was also compulsory for me in the university program of studies that I pursued. And so I studied it there. However, that study and that course, not a single course, but several years of French at junior and senior high, French at the university level, has not resulted in me being a person with great capacity in the French language. Now, on occasion, I can get by, especially if I'm hungry enough, then I will manage to order something that will fill the need for the moment. However, I haven't reached the stage where I am able to constructively engage in a conversation with somebody in that language. And I draw that illustration because if I had and unfortunately I didn't in my own home. If my parents had spoken the second language in my home to me on a regular basis, then I would have been bilingual in the Gaelic language. That did not happen. And I make that point, and I make the point of the compulsory subject, because I believe what we need to do with respect to healthy lifestyles is to make it a cultural objective of our society, incorporate it into the culture of our society. And the course to which the honourable member refers is only a part of that whole process. And the challenge of both the minister responsible for health promotions, the challenge of my department, is only part of the challenge that faces Nova Scotians. And that is to come to a realization that by becoming more physically active, we can, in fact, live a healthier life. We can live a more fulfilling life. But it is not something that will be achieved by forcing somebody into a particular course that may or may not have a lasting impact on that particular individual. Now, the honourable member may be able to present a reasonable argument that exposure to the course wouldn't hurt. I'm not going to debate that with him, but I believe where all of us need to be, we need to be coming to a recognition that we all have to become more active physically if we are to improve our health. And I must say that has become a challenge for me in terms of trying to spend some time in every day dedicated to the simple act of walking, so that my body can do what it was designed to do, which is to be active, and in the course of being active, hopefully improve my health to some degree, or at least prolong the onset of debilitating diseases that may ultimately encroach upon the physique that we all possess, and that is what we're attempting to do. So I didn't mean to ramble to this extent, Mr. Chairman, but I do want to draw the analogy to the honourable member that no, I can't do either, actually. What I'm trying to say is that the existence of a compulsory course in and of itself is not going to achieve the objective, and that there is much more to be done in encouraging all of our citizens, but really the long-term investment will be to get people in the formative years to incorporate active, healthy lifestyles as part of their life. And if I could just, one of the things that's come to my attention, even within my own community, is what I believe has been relative to the subject of physical activity, has been a mistake, and that is the location of the new schools that were built in my community. Because those schools were built at a location in the community which requires everybody to be bused to the school. The schools that they replaced were centrally located within the town, and as a result of that, most of the students within the town walked the school. So you had students who were walking every day as much as a mile, some of them 2 miles to school. That was a part of their daily activity. And yet, the decisions that we made with respect to the location of the school, and I recognize there are many other factors that were incorporated into those decisions, But the location of the school themselves has resulted in students being driven to school rather than walking to school, which they had previously been doing, and they did very willingly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The honourable member for Halifax Chebucto has approximately 12 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Minister, I wonder if we could have a bit of a conversation about some issues that are of great concern to parents in the central Halifax Peninsula. I have in mind dealing first with the issue of a new high school for the central Halifax area, and then we might also have some discussion a bit later about French immersion. So I'd like to start off, if I may, with the issue of the high school. You'll know, Minister, that the two existing high schools on the Halifax Peninsula, that is Queen Elizabeth High School and St. Pat's High School, have both been long identified as in need either of very serious, very expensive remediation or replacement by one new combined high school. As I understand it, the thought is that one new combined high school is probably going to be the way to go. I've had discussions with your predecessor about this, and the last time we discussed it in estimates, she was of the view that not only would this occur, but that it would occur with provincial funding, perhaps in the year 2005. So I'm wondering if you could give us some details now, both to me and to my colleague for Halifax Needham. Both of us are very concerned about this, but I wonder if you could give us your understanding of what the current state of play is with respect to plans for a new high school on the Halifax Peninsula. Thank you.
The Honourable Minister of Education.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I thank the honourable member for the question. And first of all, and I'm sure the honourable member knows this, that a new school to replace the existing schools is a priority of the school board. And as a result of it being a priority of the school board, it has been brought forward to us as an item of high priority. And if the honourable member were here for a previous discussion with the honourable member for Glace Bay, and we talked about the schools that are currently under consideration by Cabinet, that based on this school's priority within the Halifax District School Board, as it goes through the process, it is in a situation where my feelings toward it are not significantly different, or they're basically the same as my predecessor's feelings toward it. I don't know if that gives the honourable member any level of comfort or not, but.
Thank you, Minister. Recognize the member from Halifax Chebucto.
Well, thank you, Minister. It wasn't actually comfort so much as I was looking for information, and I think perhaps I'll just have to be very specific, if I may. Unfortunately, I wasn't here for all of your discussion with the member for Glace Bay. I did understand you to be having some talk with him about priority construction list, and I'm wondering, though, if you can just tell me where it is that the new proposed single high school for the Halifax Peninsula stands on that list. What's its rank, and what year are we looking at in terms of construction?
Thank you for the question. Direct that to the Minister of Education. Minister of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm unfortunately not in a position to share specifics with the honourable member, because the entire matter is currently before Cabinet, and I anticipate that it will be Cabinet will complete its consideration of the entire capital program in the very near future. And at that time, of course, I'll be able to provide a very specific answer to the honourable member. What I can say to the honourable member is that in the lists that have come forward from the school board, that I do not have to look very far down the list to find that project. And we try to do our best to reflect the priority of the school boards in the lists that we bring forward for consideration.
Thank you, Minister. I recognize the member from Halifax, Chebucto.
Well, thank you, Minister, for that interesting answer. We seem to be making a very small advance in our discussion. Can I try and just clarify one point with you then? Is it the case, though, that your understanding is that the proposal that Cabinet will be considering is indeed for just one high school for the Halifax Peninsula?
Thank you for the question, and direct that to the Minister of Education.
I can say to the honourable member that does appear to be the preferred option.
Thank you, Minister. I recognize the member from Halifax, Chebucto.
Yes, I'm not surprised at that answer. Of course, I didn't think this was problematic, but it was getting to be a little difficult trying to extract some specific information. So I thought we'd try and clear away the underbrush and get to as many of the exact details as we possibly can. Minister, I'm wondering if you can tell us anything about the process of choosing a location for the new school that we're talking about here. You'll know, of course, that because there are two pre-existing schools in two different, although quite close locations, in public discussion that has taken place before, there has been contemplation of the possibility of using one or the other of those two sites. And yet, this question of siting seems to be an open matter. It doesn't seem as if any particular site has absolutely been chosen, either with input from your department or from the school board, and other sites are mentioned from time to time. Other sites that have been mentioned are what are known as the Gladstone lands, that is former DND property adjacent to Gladstone Street. Another property that's been mentioned is the community college site on Bell Road, where there is now a community college. Everyone is aware of your government's recent announcement with respect to a new proposed community college campus for the metro area. Presumably that will have some impact on the Bell Road site and may indeed free it up. Probably you're aware that if use is to be made of any of the lands of which the Bell Road Community Campus is an example, that are part of the Halifax Common, those lands cannot be moved to the private sector for their purposes. So, of course, the Bell Road site might be a candidate for a public purpose like a new high school. So I'm really asking, in sum, two things really of you, Minister. One is I'm asking if you can give us any definite information about what site, if any, the province prefers. And I'm wondering if you can give us any information about what process of site selection that might involve the families of students might be gone through. Thank you.
Member, thank you for the question, and I'll direct that to the Minister of Education. Member, you only have 2 minutes left in your turn. Minister of Education.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and I'll do my best to, did you say there's 2 minutes left in?
Well, 2 minutes left.
Okay. The process that will be followed with respect to any new schools that would be built by the Halifax District School Board will not be different than the process that is followed in other locations throughout the province. And that is that there is a site selection group put together by the school board in consultation with the department and Transportation and Public Works. And that group attempts to do an evaluation of various sites, and one of the factors they try to take into consideration is the suitability of the site with respect to its capacity to serve the needs of the students, i.e. hopefully being in a location where students have access to the site. And that will be part and parcel of the process that will be used to locate this school. And the preferences of the province will not be necessarily will not be a dominant factor in that. There is a process, and the process will be followed.
Thank you, Minister. The time has elapsed for the questioning from the NDP caucus, and now I would like to recognize the member from Cape Breton West from the Liberal caucus.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm pleased to ask just a few questions on education. I too am a little bit interested in the selection process and determining priorities at the school board level and indeed at the provincial level. And as I was listening to the various deliberations earlier this morning, it reminded me of, I believe it was a little more than a year ago, when the Cape Breton Victoria School Board had indicated that its priority list was submitted to the province of Nova Scotia for capital school construction. And then about 2 weeks after that, the member for Cape Breton North, along with 2 school board representatives from the north side, indicated what the #1 priority was for the province in getting getting a school built over in his constituency. And I found that a little odd because that school wasn't even the priority that was submitted by the Cape Breton Victoria School Board. So that having been said, what is the process? Does the province advise the school boards as to what their priorities should be when they come up to the Department of Education, or do they do that based on the information that they have within their own school board in terms of demographics, the condition of the schools, or what? Could the minister give us some indication as to a thumbnail sketch, without a long dissertation, just a thumbnail sketch of how that process works with the Department of Education?
Thank you for the question, and direct that to the Minister of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I thank the honourable member for the question. Mr. Chairman, the process works as follows. There is the school boards, of course, have their own list of priorities that they present to, and it's formulated by the school boards. The boards then present their list to a school capital construction committee. And the school capital construction committee is composed of representatives from the school boards, representatives from the Department of Education, representatives from Transportation and Public Works. Anybody else?
It's not school boards, it's education, finance, TPP, and TPW.
Education. Oh, I'm sorry. There's no.
School boards recommend
Yeah.
to the council,
Okay.
and then the province has to decide the priority.
I'm sorry. Okay, Mr. Chairman, perhaps the boards bring forward their list, okay, and then the School Capital Construction Committee is made up of representatives from Education, Finance, Transportation and Public Works, and Treasury and Policy Board, okay? Yes, but there is a process of consultation that takes place between the School Capital Construction Committee and the school boards. Okay, and that's when I reference the involvement of the school boards. So the School Capital Construction Committee does not do their work in isolation, but it does it in consultation with the school boards. And so they do their evaluation of the projects that are brought forward by the school boards, and then they then provide a prioritized list. And they also make recommendations with respect to whether there appears to be a need for a new facility or whether there is sufficient residual value in existing facilities that they, in fact, can be, through additions and alterations, made suitable for future use. And once that is, that was brought forward to us, and it has been worked on over the period of the past year and a half or so, and now the complete list of both new and additions and alterations is being considered by Cabinet.
Thank you. Minister, I recognize the member from Cape Breton West.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess the minister certainly answered my question that his colleague, the member for Cape Breton North, would be offside by making such a public pronouncement of a new school being the #1 priority in the Cape Breton Victoria School Board if he was outside that process. Now, that having been said, I was pleased to hear the minister say that there is a well-defined process. I would like to look at the Halifax Regional School Board. And it would appear to me that it's taken a considerable amount of time to be able to develop that priority list from the school board to be able to get it into this capital construction review process and on to Cabinet. I was reviewing some of the history of the deliberations from the school board level going back, I suppose, a year and a half when they started to develop their priority list that I believe is now before Cabinet. At least I would suspect it's before Cabinet based on these documents. And I was a little taken by some of the comments, and I will table these, Mr. Chairman, because I'm sure the minister already has them. If not, the deputy or someone in the department should have them. And I'll just read a few of the notes with regards to the establishing the capital projects priority list. And this is February 2002. And here are some of the interesting notes, and I quote, "The staff recommendation is based entirely on the task outlined from the department. However, there are 3 issues which could impact on the board's priority in the future. And 1 is Hammonds Plains, number 2, Sir John A. Macdonald High School, and 3, school closures." Now, I found that a little interesting because throughout this document, there are a number of references, and this is on April 8th, 2002. And in this school board document, on the background decision with regards to the capital construction submission addendum. So it seems like they made a change in what their priority was. The capital project submission approved by the board on February 26, 2002 noted the matter of overcrowding in Hammonds Plains corridor was not addressed. It was being studied by the Research and Planning Department of the Halifax Regional School Board. The report indicated that if the study concluded that a new building was warranted, that the Executive Council would score the project according to the provincial criteria and advance it in ranked position to the board in the Department of Education. Now, we'll go on a little further. In this same document, it says that this project would be advanced to the province, that this province be advanced to the province with a score of 95 and a rank of 3. Mr. Chairman, what this appears to indicate to me is that there's considerable influence from the province in determining what the Halifax Regional School Board's priority listing should be. And there's considerable other information in here that I believe will support that. Now, as I said, when I'm finished with it, I will table it for the committee. And it's broken down 3 different ways in terms of new construction, alterations and additions, and repairs and renovations. And then, Mr. Chairman, each of the schools in question are categorized on a point score of 1 to 25 in each of the following categories: condition, crowding, programs, and efficiency. And the number 1 priority for the Halifax Regional School Board is to replace St. Pat's / QEH high schools with a new school. And the total point score is 100. So I would imagine the minister would have that document with him before Cabinet, or at least before the department. And then it goes through a series of other scenarios. Replace Harborside / Robert Jameson Elementary with a P to 9 school, and that's ranked on a total point score of 100. And then it goes down: replace Musquodoboit Rural High, point score 95. Replace elementary for South End Halifax, 90. Replace Prince Arthur Junior High School, 90. Replace John W. McLeod / Fleming Tower, 90. Replace elementary for North End Dartmouth, 90. Now let's go into the alterations and additions category. Sir John A. Macdonald, point score 100. Now that's the maximum that would be considered. Lakeview West Chesuncook, 93. Waverley Memorial / LC Scary, point 90. Sycamore Lane, I think I pronounced that right, a point score of 90. Sunnydale Elementary, point score of 88. Atlantic Memorial Terrence Bay, 85. Southdale North Woodside Elementary, 80. And Mr. Chairman, on the repairs and renovations, we have to renovate Bedford Junior High School, point score 100. Renovate Prince Andrew High School, point score 95. Renovate Caledonia Junior High School, point score 93. Renovate Clayton Park Junior High School, point 90. Renovate Ellen Vale Junior High School, 90. And renovate Duncan McMillan High School, 90. Now, Mr. Chairman, what I find interesting about the other pieces of information attached here is that there has been considerable movement about the priority list within the Halifax Regional School Board based on activities and interactions with the Department of Education. So my question, point blank, is, did the Department of Education at any time make any direct intervention through its staff member that represents the Department of Education at school board meetings and at the school board level? I believe Mr. Cochran, the Deputy Minister, would be familiar. It's an issue I raised with Mr. Reid on a previous day when he was CEO of the board, to influence the priority listing to satisfy the provincial priority listing, so as to ensure that seamless continuity between the province and the school board. so as to ensure that there'd be very little disruption or questions asked on a future day, whether it be for political considerations, whether it be in terms of changing demographics or whatever. I mean, we on this side may have our opinion and think it's political, and you know, we have the right and a duty to raise the specter of that, but the minister also has the right and the duty to rebuff that and provide some data to support the priority listing. Given the fact, I'll leave that question, and I premise that in part because of the Deputy Minister's comments yesterday, that he couldn't even tell us what the priority listings were from the school boards. Now, I can appreciate what the Deputy Minister said, that he can't discuss any document that's before Cabinet. Well, these listings submitted by the individual school boards are not Cabinet documents. They are public documents submitted on behalf of the stakeholders in their respective jurisdictions. I would ask the Minister, number one, if he could answer the first question, and number two, if he would be willing to table the list, not the ones that are before Cabinet, and I appreciate Cabinet confidentiality, but simply the list of all those that have been submitted.
Thank you. A member, before I recognize the minister, would you permit time for an introduction? Yeah. I'd like at this time to recognize the Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable member for Cape Breton West and the Minister of Education. Mr. Speaker, it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you and all members of the House Mr. Tom Rosesco from Dartmouth. It may be quite appropriate that Mr. Rosesco is here in the House during the education debate, since his career spanned over 30 years in the education system as a principal and an educator in Nova Scotia, and a fine, outstanding citizen that he is, still involved in community work in Dartmouth in many organizations. And I would ask the House to welcome Tom Rosesco to the House and give him a warm round of applause.
Good afternoon. The Chair also welcomes you here this morning, I should say. And Minister, you have the floor, the Minister of Education.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and I'll answer the second question first, if I might. I believe that the Deputy Minister undertook to provide that material to you, and I will be pleased to table it in the course of the estimates. The second question, and I need to refer back to the process that I referenced earlier with respect to how schools are dealt with through the School Capital Construction Committee. The board does present a list to that committee, and that committee, in consultation with the board, does review the list. And the school board's list, of course, is a list that needs to be integrated with the list of all the school boards within the province. And that is the role of the School Capital Construction Committee, is to carry out that integration and to provide another priority list which incorporates the needs of all of the school boards within the province. And in the course of that activity, there is an ongoing evaluation as to whether, I believe we had 30 requests for 33 new schools in the province, and there is not the fiscal capacity of the province to be able to meet 33 new schools in a timely fashion. So part of the consultation that takes place and part of the work of the School Capital Construction Committee is to determine whether or not a request for a new school could, in fact, be, if the needs of that school board could be met through the additions and alterations program. In other words, is there sufficient residual value in a school to enable it to be used through a program of alterations and additions, and provide a long life to that school and allow that school to continue to serve the needs of the community in which it is located. That process, of course, requires ongoing discussion, and there has, in fact, the Deputy Minister does play a role in carrying that discussion between the Department of Education on behalf of the School Capital Construction Committee and school boards. He does not, however, do all of that consultation. A great deal of it takes place in the process of the School Capital Construction Committee formulating their own listings. But indeed, there are opportunities, appropriate opportunities, for the Deputy Minister to communicate with school boards relative to decisions on the School Capital Construction Committee's list with respect to decisions related to new school versus additions and alterations. And that process is ongoing. And I might, Mr. Chairman, join the members of the House in welcoming Mr. Rosasco. I've known him for quite a number of years, and he and I share a mutual friend in St. John's, Newfoundland, Mr. Jerry Duggan, and I'm looking forward to seeing Mr. Duggan this fall. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Minister. Recognize the member from Cape Breton West.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Essentially, if I interpret in part what the Minister has said, is the Department of Education is playing a more active role in deciding what the school board's priority is, particularly for the Halifax Regional School Board, than he lets on. Because I'll refer to a letter dated January 9th, 2002 from Charles Clattenburg. And again, Mr. Speaker, this will be the package I'll table when I'm finished. To Mike Fleming, Halifax Regional School Board, where he was asked to either confirm the priority list developed by the province from the school board's September 2000 submission, or prepare a revised priority list and submit it to the Department of Education by February 15th. So it would appear to me that what happened here is the province set out what the priority was and sent it back to the school board and say, this is what we would like, so you tell us if you're going to be happy with that. Otherwise, you give us your priority list. That seems to be a break, a reversal in process, where the school boards determine their priorities and then send them up to the provincial level. Now we have the province determining the priority for the Halifax Regional School Board and asking the school board to approve it and send it back up so that they can bring it before Cabinet and decide how they were going to appropriate the dollars.
Thank you, member, for the question. Direct that to the Minister of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, if one were to take a snapshot of a process, then you may get an entirely different perspective of what is happening as a result of that particular snapshot. You could, for instance, take a snapshot of a person who was, if you looked at the snapshot, it might appear as if the person were falling, but indeed the person may have been in the act of getting up, but there's no way of telling as a result of that particular snapshot, because it is not you're not able to put it in the context of the entire process. And a letter is and the piece of communication to which the honourable member referenced is part of an ongoing communication. Now, the member must understand that the school boards do establish their priority list, but it is the responsibility of the province to take all of those lists and establish a priority list throughout all of the province, i.e., is the number one priority of the Annapolis Valley School Board, is that number one priority more important than the number one priority of the Strait Regional School Board? That's the decision that the province has to make. And similarly with all of the other projects that are brought forward. Now, there was, and the other factor that the honourable member must appreciate is that the needs of school boards relative to schools and facilities is not a static situation. It is a situation that, in fact, changes over time. So the first list that was formulated by the School Capital Construction Committee was a list formulated in the year 2000. The list that is currently being considered by Cabinet is a more recent list. So obviously there was a need between the year 2000 and the year 2003 to have communication between the board or the boards and the Department of Education to confirm that certain priorities remain priorities of the board, or to confirm that the board has had good reason to alter some of their priorities, and their needs have changed somewhat. So there is a need for communication to occur in that process, and I would suggest to the honourable member that you will find instances of communication that take place among the boards, and that is something that is an ongoing process. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. I recognize the member from Cape Breton West.
Well, Mr. Chairman, with all due respect to the minister, that's the biggest piece of political babble gaff I ever heard. I mean, this is what was in the department, the Halifax Regional School Board staff committee concluded. It was in the best interest of the board to modify the September 2000 approach to conform to the political process or provincial process. In other words, they were essentially saying that if they wanted to get their list approved, you do what the province wants or else. And just to go in line with the minister's logic about a moving target, let's go a little further down the road and look at what's happening with other schools in the Halifax Regional School Board, such as Hammonds Plains Consolidated Elementary School, which now has 5 portables and will require more in the near future. And I'm not sure if part of that issue has been addressed yet or not. So I subject myself to that correction. And then there's also the Madeline's Simmons Middle School, which will require portables to accommodate the bulge that is currently housed in portables at the P to 4 level. The grade 10 levels, which is primary to grade 9, are split between the 2 buildings, each of which has 21 regular classrooms. So if he wants to talk about a moving target, both of these should be top priorities before the Department of Education coming from the Halifax Regional School Board. And the numbers, which I will table, support that. The demographics and the expected population growth I would suspect would not only support that, but would pretty well guarantee that they be top priorities at the cabinet level. Can the minister confirm if either of those 2 schools are being considered by cabinet, given the rather concerning information that's being supplied by the Halifax Regional School Board to the Department of Education?
Thank you. The Minister of Education.
Mr. Chairman, I believe I can do better than that. I believe I can indicate to the honourable member the information that is known by most people in the Halifax area, that we, in consultation with the school board, found it appropriate in order to accommodate the school board's planning, found it appropriate to commit to the building of the Hammonds Plains School, so that and that commitment, which is a P to 9 school, would in fact look after the other school to which the honourable member referenced. So and And I want to point out to the honourable member that we did that early because the school had to make some boundary changes for future reference, and they needed to know what the status of that school would be in order to carry out those boundary changes. So not only is it a priority, it has been announced, and the planning is underway for the construction of the school.
Thank you, Minister. I recognize the member from Cape Breton West.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I think I made that notation when I stood that perhaps that first issue was addressed. But as the minister has indicated, equally so, it's only an announcement, and it's a futuristic thing. I think if we were to look very carefully at the comments that were made by his deputy yesterday at Public Accounts, there are lots of announcements, but all those announcements won't be reflected in this year's budget in terms of capital commitments. They're futuristic, you know, which we're talking into 2005 and beyond. And I think, and good thing the deputy is here because he can correct me if I misinterpreted his comments, of all the schools that have been built so far under this government, only 2 new schools were effectively built under the tenure of this government, and the rest were commitments from the previous administration. So given the fact that if we're able to build 39 schools, or at least commit to, and I do appreciate the Deputy Minister's comments yesterday saying that not all of them were completed. I think it was 10 or 11 that still had to be completed under this administration. 10? 10. So 29 in 4 years, 29 in 5 years is a lot better than the number that was built under this particular administration, so which would be 12. So you're building, you know, less than half. Given the fact that the number one priority for new construction from the Halifax Regional School Board is in fact the replacement of St. Pat's and Queen Elizabeth High, can the minister confirm if what they've submitted is the number one priority from the board, that is the new school on the peninsula that the minister is talking about?
Thank you for the question. Direct that to the Minister of Education.
Mr. Chairman, that school, in fact, is the number one priority of the Halifax District School Board. And the priority list that we will develop will be developed with the understanding that that is Halifax's number one priority. And as I indicated, there are other school boards' priorities that have to be taken into account. And I would also suggest to the honourable member that commitments are of significant value. When we assumed office, there were commitments of 17 schools made by the previous government, commitments that while they did not have dollar values assigned to them or a method of financing identified, were in fact, for the most part, met entirely by this government, and they were built. And we, of course, will have additional schools to come forward in the very near future, and we will make commitments to them, and our commitments will have a method of financing associated with them, with dollars, appropriate dollars identified into the future. And so I would respectfully suggest that the commitment that we make is as good as any commitment that they might have made, and we in fact went good on their commitments and built the schools that they brought forward, and we intend to go good on our commitments and build the schools that we commit to as we move forward from this particular juncture. At any rate, I believe I've confirmed to the honourable member the information that he needed.
Thank you, Minister. Recognize the member from Cape Breton West.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. He certainly has. He's confirmed that the schools that we identified for construction, even though they weren't completed and all the financing wasn't in order, it was good value for dollar because the people need it. The people needed those schools, and the government agreed with what we did in previous administration. And Mr. Chairman, they fulfilled that obligation, and I congratulate the minister for that. Mr. Speaker. Well, Mr. Speaker, you know, the socialists, and I don't want to get off with rabbit tracks, but the fact of the matter is, and the Auditor General has identified that point about the risk management, and that was the biggest problem with the P3 process, the fact that it came down as capital rather than operating in some of the cases. Well, the member for Halifax Fairview is still stinging from the fact that he's not allowed to ask any questions in question period anymore, so he's resorted to just chattering across to harangue other members. Mr. Chairman, and I agreed with the Deputy Minister yesterday when he indicated that on balance we were getting pretty good value for dollar with those schools that were constructed under the P3 process, but the concern being that they should have been more risk put over on the shoulder of the developer. I believe that was the issue, and that was the issue that the Auditor General. Not in all cases, but there were some cases that, and rightfully so, that they should have been addressed. But Mr. Chairman, I would like to go back to the issue of the Cape Breton Victoria District School Board. They have a number of issues before them. One of the biggest problems, well, I suppose not just in the Cape Breton Victoria District School Board, but across rural Nova Scotia, the changing demographics. Population in rural Nova Scotia is declining in favor of growth in Halifax Regional Municipality. And that's been a trend. I think the first time I've seen statistics on that was around coming in the early 80s, 1984 or thereabouts, when the then Department of, I forget what, before it was named the Department of Economic Development, whatever name, the Department of Economic Development used to keep statistics on demographics, you know, for various reasons. But it's back, I believe it was around 1983, 84 when they first started with statistics. And from that day on, pretty well, the population in rural Nova Scotia has been declining. There are a few little bubbles here and there, like in Kings County or Hants County. What is the minister, I know you go down to the front lines where the school boards are. What is the Department of Education doing to ensure that the quality of education is maintained at the same level in rural Nova Scotia as it is in urban Nova Scotia? Because the minister will I'm sure, remember the two schools of thought through the Graham Commission and the Walker Commission. That's an ever-growing concern in rural Nova Scotia. And I would ask if the minister could outline what his department's plans are to ensure that disparity doesn't get any worse than it is today.
Thank you, member. I would like to recognize the Minister of Education.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and I thank the honourable member for the question, and I will indeed provide him with an update as to what the department is involved in relative to this concern. I do, however, want to point out to the honourable member that it is not a concern that is isolated to Nova Scotia. It's a concern that has a very significant impact on a lot of our provinces and in various parts of our province. Indeed, within our own province, the declining enrollment issue is something which is really affecting all parts of the province, even in the metro area where we experience significant growth, the projections will show that there will be a declining school population in the metro area. So that is, it's a province-wide phenomena that we're dealing with. Now, within the periphery and within areas of low population concentrations, the challenges are much greater. And I can tell you that I attended with my colleagues from across the country in Quebec City a meeting of ministers of education for the provinces and the territories, where the sole focus of that meeting was to deal with the issues of declining enrollment, declining population. And it was an extremely interesting meeting, because we were exposed to quite a number of ideas and approaches being taken to this particular problem right across the country. And if you look at the province of British Columbia, which we consider to be a province of considerable growth, the fact is that within the demographics of British Columbia, you have declining enrollments occurring in areas of central and northern British Columbia, and that is providing real challenges for them. And part of their challenge, of course, part of their approach is to use the technology related to distance education in order to address this. But their challenge is a challenge of having the required infrastructure in order to deliver distance education programming in their areas. And we, to a lesser extent, have that problem in this province, because we have very significant distribution of wideband communication within this province that will enable us to use technology relative to delivery of distance education. We still have challenges to overcome with respect to that. Certainly, in dealing with these problems as articulated in the jurisdictions of the Yukon, Inuvik, and the Northwest Territories, you had situations where they have very, very real challenges in terms of dealing with delivery of education in areas of declining population, school-age population, and the solutions that are being approached there are very challenging. In particular, we have been working closely with the province of Ontario, and we think of the area of the Golden Horseshoe of Ontario as being an area of considerable growth and a concentration of population. But of course, Ontario is a vast piece of real estate within this country, and there are parts of Ontario where they have very, very significant challenges with respect to the delivery of education in certain portions of that province. And similarly with the province of Newfoundland, and Newfoundland perhaps more acutely than anybody is experiencing the depopulation of that area. So my point is that there are a lot of people out there who are attempting to find solutions to this particular problem. And I can say that what we have done is we're spearheading an analysis of the impact of declining student enrollment and program delivery as to how we can ensure that our students are getting the programs that are available, despite the fact that the schools' populations are declining, and the capacity to be able to deliver a variety of programs within schools whose population is declining is a challenge. And it's an area of concern across the province, and we're working together with our partners to find strategies in order to deal with that. And it's an area of concern for all the stakeholders: teachers, parents, communities, school boards, and government. And we have asked all of our partners to work together to address this particular issue. And some of the approaches that we have to consider are things like alternate forms of funding, including program funding. That may be part of a recommended solution to the problem. The need for a form of program funding that has been voiced by some of the committee members. And I could say that this committee that we have put in place is chaired by Mr. Jim Burton, who is based in Sydney and works with the two school boards, both the Cape Breton District School Board and Strait Regional Board. Both boards, of course, are experiencing the problem of declining enrollment more acutely than anyone else in the province. And as I indicated, the committee's work has included reviewing initiatives that have taken place within the province of Ontario and the province of Newfoundland. So, Mr. Chairman, the honourable member it's appropriate, I believe, for him to ask questions in this area because it is an area of huge concern to all of us and to all jurisdictions responsible for the delivery of education right across the country. Thank you.
The honourable member for Cape Breton West.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What the minister has just said is that they haven't been able to fulfill one of the commitments from the Blue Book. You know, this infamous Blue Book from the last election, it said that it would be reviewing funding formulas to protect schools and areas of declining enrollments from detrimental and ultimately reductions in teaching staff. And that strategy would be developed during the term of this government. And the minister has just indicated a few moments ago they're developing a strategy. So I'll leave that, given the fact that the minister has essentially indicated that they don't have a strategy to deal with it at this point, and they're at the end of the mandate. I guess that pretty well says that's at least one commitment that the government has not made, one of many. Well, the minister is making prognostications that maybe they might be here this time next year before the election. But that doesn't seem to be the sense of what we're getting from some of his colleagues. An interesting point that's been raised on a number of occasions. One, I raised it with the Deputy Minister at Public Accounts yesterday. There was another issue I raised with Mr. David Reid, the CEO of the former CEO of the Halifax Regional School Board, is the province's desire to take over control of transportation and facilities from the school boards in a way to achieve greater efficiency. Would the minister be kind enough to tell us at what stage of discussion is this issue between the minister and the chairs of the respective school boards?
The Minister of Education.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. We are in consultation with the school boards relative to this particular topic, and we are required, of course, to have something in place by the spring of '04, and it is our intention to be ready to do that. And there are a number of options that are being considered. And I just want to back up to the previous question and indicate to the honourable member that we indeed plan to have the report of that committee ready for presentation in the very near future. Okay. You can check that off as one being done. Yeah.
The member for Cape Breton West.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to rush right to the book on page 19 or wherever, and I'll check that off because I think that's very important. They haven't done it to the entire mandate, and the election is perhaps a month or so away, and he's going to get something together to say that he's doing something. But the fact of the matter is they haven't addressed the issue at all. And aside from the politics of it, I think that's very concerning for rural Nova Scotia. And I would think it would be of considerable concern to some of the Tory backbenchers who live in rural Nova Scotia, where their communities are affected and in favor of the growth areas. Mr. Chairman, the minister didn't answer my question on the issue of transportation and facilities. My question was, what discussions did he have with the chairs of the board, or what correspondence? Is there any paper trail or any official representation between the minister and the chairs of these various school boards? I know there have been discussions within the department, but what deliberations have taken place between the minister and the chairs of these boards?
The Minister of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am attempting to visit with the school boards as my time in the department progresses, and in the process of meeting with the boards, we're obviously meeting with the chairs. I'm meeting with the chair and superintendent of the board on Tuesday morning, as a matter of fact. So the paper trail perhaps is not as good as the road trail in terms of doing it, but we are involved in consultations with them, and the subject that you reference is a subject matter that is discussed with the boards, and I hope in the very near future to have closed the loop with respect to those meetings.
The member for Cape Breton West.
Well, the minister says he's hoping to close the loop. What he is saying is that he has not, as Minister of Education, had any official dialogue with the chairs of these boards on the issue of transferring responsibility of transportation and facilities to the province away from these school boards. Am I correct in that?
The Minister of Education.
Mr. Chairman, I must confess, I thought the honourable member was referencing the issue of governance with respect to boards, and I apologize because that was the question that I was answering. The broader question of how we care for our facilities in the future is a matter which we will be considering, and we will be looking for the input of school boards with respect to that. But I can't say that I can't say that I would describe the process at this juncture as being a formalized process.
The member for Cape Breton West.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, at least the minister is conceding that the province is contemplating that issue of taking over transportation and facilities. That's what he's just indicated, that they're considering that. And I'll let Hansard reflect exactly what the minister said, not myself, but that's my interpretation of it. Given that seems fairly consistent with what the Deputy Minister indicated at Public Accounts yesterday. It's consistent with the testimony that was given by the former CEO of the Halifax Regional School Board nearly 2 years ago, where he indicated he was having discussions with the Deputy Minister, the present Deputy Minister, on this very issue. So I would think that the chairs and the elected school board members from all the school boards across the province would be quite concerned about the responsibility that they now have will be taken over by the province. Because the Deputy Minister indicated at Public Accounts yesterday that the government has to think, quote, outside the box, unquote, and innovative ways to be able to get control of the financial situation. This ever-growing problem with the $500 million deferred maintenance. And he alluded to the fact that he saw the school boards as a problem to this issue. And the only way to resolve that problem is to either get rid of school boards, he didn't say that, or to take that responsibility over themselves. And what the minister has just indicated is very consistent with those deliberations that have taken place between the deputy minister and CEOs of the various school boards across the province. But unfortunately, the minister has never made an official communique to the chairs of the school boards advising them of what the province's intention is. It's going to be all unveiled in the spring of 2004. In other words, in the next budget. And that's what the minister is alluding to. Because otherwise, how else will the government be able to, quote, think outside the box? I would suggest, Mr. Chairman, that the school boards are in for one heck of a shock. They're in for one heck of a shock as to what this government is contemplating on doing. They're going to strip the school boards down to a shell. Because this has been going on, not just from a few general conversations that, you know, people musing back and forth about different scenarios. This is something that's been going on for the best part of this government's mandate. The deputy minister has confirmed that he's had deliberations with the CEOs of these boards. Would the minister please apprise members of the committee as to what official correspondence the deputy minister has on hand in terms of results of his, you know, as a measure of the results of his deliberations with these CEOs that he referenced to yesterday at Public Accounts.
We're having some technical come unwired here. The Honourable the Minister of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the subject to which the honourable member refers, there is, as I understand, a letter from my predecessor to the board chairs indicating that we would be informing them as to how we're going to deal with the changes that have to take place with respect to governance in the spring of 2004, and that we will be in discussion with them as we contemplate that course of action. And a part of that course of action, of course, is to evaluate what has gone on in the pilots, and also to take into account the message from the Auditor General with respect to the issue of maintenance. And as the honourable member indicated, we inherited a $500 million shortfall with respect to deferred maintenance. We have put an infusion of $290 million toward addressing that shortfall in our term as government, and we will continue to address that shortfall, and we will close the gap. How we deal with it in a matter of governance into the future, there are a number of options. Dedicated funding is one option that's being considered. Whether we have achieved the level of success that, or to phrase it another way, we would want to do a complete evaluation of the level of success that has been experienced in the pilots relative to how the matter of properties was dealt with in that under that form of governance. So the honourable member is correct. There is a lot to deal with here, and we will, in consultation with all education stakeholders, deal with that as we move forward. Thank you.
sorry about that. We're disconnected here from time to time, or at least the wiring is. The Honourable, the member for Cape Breton West.
It's important, Mr. Chair. We need to know that you're fully wired there. Would the minister be kind enough to table that letter that he sent to the school boards for the committee here?
The Minister of Education.
Thank the honourable member. The letter is one which was written by my predecessor, and I'll be pleased to find a copy of it and make it available to the honourable member and to the committee.
The member for Cape Breton West.
Would the minister endeavour to make that available, let's say, by Tuesday of next week?
The Minister of Education.
That seems to be a reasonable objective, Mr. Chairman.
The member for Cape Breton West has approximately 1 minute and a half.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll essentially conclude by saying I must say that this is going to be a significant and somewhat dramatic change in the way school boards will be operating in the future. I'm not sure if school boards are fully apprised and fully understand the magnitude of what the minister and the government is proposing, taking over ownership of all the schools, the management of all the schools, and the transportation systems, and the financing of all this here, and just leave the curriculum with the school boards. The school boards will be a shell of what they are now. And this is one step further to centralizing control of education in an office tower in downtown Halifax. And I'm not so sure how the minister is going to be able to come to terms with this proposed strategy for schools in rural Nova Scotia and maintaining a high quality of education in rural Nova Scotia. They're talking about going back to the people on one hand, and on the other hand, they're stripping everything from the boards. And I think, I'm not so sure if this issue has really caught on with the boards at this juncture, but I find this very concerning, Mr. Speaker. I realize my time has expired, and I do thank the minister for his answering my questions, and I look forward to coming back on a future day.
The Honourable Minister of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to indicate to the honourable member that we have an obligation to respond to the recommendations of the Auditor General, and we are responding to those recommendations. We have not made any definite decisions with respect to what form that response will take. To say that ideas are under consideration is not to say that any conclusions have been reached. And indeed, we would be remiss if we were not to explore a variety of options with respect to addressing the concerns raised by the Auditor General, concerns that are recognized by school boards, by the government, by all stakeholders in the education community. So the honourable member can allow his imagination to run where it will. We have not reached the stage where we're prepared to focus on one particular course of action or another, other than to say that we are indeed exploring a number of options with respect to this. And I will say, Mr. Chairman, that enabling school boards to focus on the delivery of education without any other distractions is a model that I believe is worthy of considerable consideration. And I would not describe it as being a shell of an operation. Indeed, I I have often said that when asked how I enjoy this portfolio, I've often said I would love to have more time to spend on education rather than the work of the Department of Transportation and Public Works. But that's a reality that I face, and it's a responsibility I have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We will now shift to the New Democratic Party. The Honourable, the member for Halifax-Chebucto.
Mr. Chair, thank you very much. And Minister, despite your hopes to avoid the work of the Department of Transportation and Public Works, I think that's in fact where you and I left off about an hour ago, and I'd like to redirect your attention. When we did last have an exchange here, it had to do with the subject of the possibility of a new high school for the Halifax Peninsula, and we were discussing both process and location. I wonder if we could focus on this question of the possible availability of the community college site on Bell Road. I'm wondering, with respect to the new announced Central Metro Community College for Dartmouth, whether you can tell me what timetable is contemplated for the occupancy of that site by the community college. Just to clarify for you, Minister, of course, what I'm talking about is the proposal to use some or all of the site of the Nova Scotia Hospital. I'm sure you're familiar with that. So what I'm wondering is what timetable is contemplated for that?
The Minister of Education.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And the honourable member is correct when he suggests that once that new site is in fact completed, that we will have increased our capacity there and will allow us to make certain decisions and moves with respect to other existing facilities. And I can tell the honourable member that that facility is, and it's anticipated that it will be occupied in September 2006. Okay.
The member for Halifax-Chebucto. And just to try to be clear about this, Minister, because I didn't follow, I think, all the details of the announcement with respect to the community college. I'm wondering if you can help me. Is it contemplated that the facilities that are part of the community college system that now exist in the building on Bell Road will be vacated as part of the process of new construction?
The Minister of Education.
I want to thank the honourable member. I guess it's important to distinguish the role of the Department of Education with respect to the operation of the Nova Scotia Community College, which operates with its own board of directors and president and staff, and the relationship between ourselves and the Nova Scotia Community College is one where we indeed are a funding agent, and we attempt to meet their budgetary commitments with respect to their operations. And we have committed funding with respect to the expansion program that they have. However, the details of how they are going to articulate those expansions are questions which will be forthcoming from or answers which will be forthcoming from the community college in the course of time. Now, whether the community college has in fact made a definitive taken a definitive position with respect to this is something I could attempt to inquire about, but it is their decision.
The Halifax-Chebucto member.
Well, Mr. Chair, I don't know that I actually can thank the minister for that answer. I have to say it struck me as perhaps not as fulsome as it might have been. I have to explain this to the minister because I find it hard to imagine that the province would have committed itself to a sum of money and a site and the size of that site without a serious understanding of what it is that the board of directors of the community college system had in mind. I would have thought it impossible for his department, his government, to have made the commitment and the announcement that it made without understanding which of the metro facilities that were pre-existing as part of the community college system were going to be moved to the new site. There aren't all that many of them. I mean, there's the Dartmouth site, the Akerley site, there are the 2 Halifax sites. There may be more. I'm not familiar with all of them, but I would have thought that it would have been fairly basic to the structuring of what the government had committed itself to in terms of the old Nova Scotia Hospital site, that there be some understanding of that. So I'm a little bit at a loss to completely integrate the minister's answer. I wouldn't have characterized this question of the future of the Bell Road facility as being a detail. I think the minister did characterize it as being a detail. That's hardly how it would strike me, or I think most other observers. So I'd like to ask the minister again if he can't help us out just a little bit in understanding what the state of play is with respect to the possible availability of the Bell Road facility for other uses. Now, I want to suggest to the minister that there might be a variety of answers that he could deal with if he doesn't feel that he can state absolutely that the Bell Road facility will be available. He might, for example, let us know when he expects a final decision to be made by the board of directors of the community college system about that. He might let us know, for example, that if moving the facilities at the Bell Road Community College campus to Dartmouth is not on the agenda, then whether moving them to some other community college facility is on the agenda. Or he might in fact confirm that the possibility of moving the Bell Road facilities out of that building is indeed one of the items that's on the agenda of the Board of Directors of the Community College System. I would remind the minister that, as I understand it, the Board of Directors of the Community College System is an entity which is ultimately within his government's control. So I do repeat my question: can the minister help us with any more details in our knowledge or understanding of what it is that is likely to be the future of the Bell Road facility?
Thank you for the question, member, and I'll direct that to the Minister of Education.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and it was certainly not my intention to be unhelpful to the honourable member in my response. I guess I was wanting to make it clear that my capacity that I do not have the capacity to speak on behalf of the community college. Having said that, and if that's understood by all members of the committee, then I can, in fact, suggest to you what I think might happen. I noted with interest on the day of the announcement when I attended at the facility on Bell Road that it was constructed in 1948. It is the oldest facility, I believe, if not the oldest, in the community college. And it is anticipated that indeed that the expanded facility or the new facility at Dartmouth would be a facility that would have the capacity to look after the needs of students at the Bell Road site. And if that indeed were to happen, then that site would be a site that would be available, as the honourable member indicated previously in his previous hour, that that facility would remain under the jurisdiction of the province for purposes of an educational facility. And that, of course, creates certain opportunities that need to be pursued and examined relative to any decisions that would be taken with respect to a new facility if one were to be determined to replace the existing Queen Elizabeth St. Pat's facilities. And so definitely there is a link with respect to all of that, but I'm not in a position to say what is going to happen, because there are processes in place which need to be followed in order for events that we might anticipate to in fact occur. And so what I need to underline again is that the decisions with respect to the future of those students currently housed on the Bell Road site is a decision that the community college will make. We can anticipate what that decision is likely to be, and I believe that we will be reasonably accurate in the assumptions made by the honourable member that it would in all likelihood be housed at the new facility in Dartmouth. And we can then assume that a new site for educational purposes within the peninsula of Halifax would be a potential site for any new high school. But that is not to say that it would be the only site.
Thank you, Minister. Recognize the member from Halifax, Shabukdo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Minister, I think we're much closer to a happier exchange on this subject now. There are a few points I'd like to emphasize to the Minister about the process of establishing a new high school for the Halifax Peninsula. This question of site, of course, is something that all the families are concerned about. They're concerned that, but of course it's not the only point that they are concerned about. But I just do want to say a couple of things about this. The idea of a central location is important. The idea of a site that is sufficiently ample in size is important. Access to some recreation grounds, of course, is important. Earlier I mentioned the Gladstone lands, and one of the big drawbacks about that land is that I think it's not large enough to really accommodate sports or recreation lands. But one of the advantages, of course, of sites that are adjacent to the Halifax Commons is that there is the possibility of sports and recreation. So this is an important factor, and I'm hoping that whatever process is entered into for the selection of a site will be one where the parents are involved and have an opportunity to be actively involved in discussion. My experience of talking with them is that they have a lot of good ideas about what it is that needs to occur and what they would like to see. So this is on the site side, and I think the Minister can well understand that the siting of facilities is something that's always an actively debated and participated in process. So he can certainly anticipate that the parents on the Halifax Peninsula will take an active interest in that. What in the end, though, concerns the parents the most is the quality of the education that is offered to their children. And this is their paramount concern. To the extent that the question of both selection and design of a new high school is connected with quality, that is really their underlying motivation. That is what it is that the parents are looking for. Now, the Minister will know that part of what it is that is at work with respect to the design of a new high school for the Central Halifax Peninsula is the fact that there is a new Halifax West High School, and this is having some impact on the total number of students that will be available for the new Central Halifax High School. The plan that's been worked out by the school board at this point is one that will see the French immersion program at the high school level that has been located at St. Patrick's High School refigured, so that there will be 3 high schools that will offer French immersion, Halifax West, St. Pat's, and J.L. Ilsley. It's far from clear that this is a satisfactory solution, and I'll get to this question perhaps in a little more detail a little later on, but the main impact is that under even a 2 high school configuration for French immersion, there would be a reduction in numbers of students attending St. Pat's High School, and consequently a reduction in total numbers of students in a combined high school on the Halifax Peninsula. What parents are concerned about is that there continues to be a high quality of high school education offered in the high school that results on the peninsula. So I just want to emphasize to the minister how deep the concern is among families on the peninsula that there not be erosion of quality of the high school offerings as a result of new buildings of schools elsewhere. This is an interactive process, no doubt. But at the same time, the high schools on the peninsula have traditionally been very good schools, and there's concern that that in the overall competition for resources, there might be erosion of quality. I asked the minister to pay attention to that part. Now, I want to turn to another aspect of this question, which is the actual process of transition. Because, as I understand it, the school board has already decided that this fall, in the fall of 2003, there will be dispersal of the French immersion high school students, and in their plan, that will be to 3 high schools. That is, some of the students will remain at St. Pat's, some will be at the New Halifax West, and some will be at J.L. Ilsley. For the minister's information, many parents who have thought about this, parents of French immersion students, at all 3 of those families of schools, have come to the conclusion that the resultant size of the French immersion programs at all 3 schools, all 3 high schools, tends to erode the quality of that French immersion program, and they have now put in front of the school board the proposal that the school board rethink this. The proposal is that they think about staying or going to a 2 high school model. That is, that there not be an establishment of a French immersion program at the high school level at J.L. Ilsley until their feeder schools have developed a large enough enrollment to justify having the program at that level. I have no idea what the school board is going to do with that, but they may feel that they've already made their decision and they're not prepared to revisit it. But they may feel that the proposal has some sense. In any event, as a result of the decision of the school board, whether it's to stick with the 3 high school model for French immersion or to modify it and go to a 2 high school model, there will be an immediate reduction in the number of students enrolled at St. Pat's this fall of 2003. So there's going to be a fairly significant reduction. And St. Pat's is already not an enormously large high school. With the reduction in students, it is feasible to consider the possibility of merging the two high schools in advance of the building of a new building. Now, what I'm asking the minister is whether this possibility has been considered. This, of course, would mean that some of the land would be freed up in the sense that we have two buildings at the moment, neither of them fully utilized. And I'm wondering whether, since we're looking now at a large reduction in the number of students at St. Pat's High School, starting after 2 months from now, and yet we're not looking at the possibility of a brand new facility for at least 2, and as I understand the timetable, possibly 3 years in terms of construction and availability for housing students. Whether this possibility has come up for discussion between his department and the Halifax Regional School Board.
Thank you for the question. I recognize the Minister of Education. The Minister of Education.
I want to thank the honourable member for his question and the significant detailed preamble. I want to seek some clarity from the honourable member with respect to the question, and the clarity I seek is this. Is he asking the question of whether or not consideration has been given to combining the populations of the new schools in the fall of 2003, regardless of future location of a new facility, or whether he's talking about combining the populations at a time that would permit, as a result of the site selection process, one of those two sites might be identified as a site for a new facility, and therefore there would be a combining of the populations in order to accommodate that. And I'm just not certain as to in which context he placed the question. I think I understand the context, but if he could make it clear, I would appreciate it.
Thank you, Minister. Recognize the member from Halifax, Shabukdo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And to the Minister, I can say that the possibility of combining the populations this fall seemed to me a little quick, but I suppose it is possible if the site selection process had moved along to the point where one or the other of the two high school locations, the two existing high school locations, had perhaps been ruled out as the future site of a high school. If that's the case, then it might well be possible to move the populations into the other high school at that stage. I don't know that it's absolutely necessary to tie the process of site selection and the process of merging of the two populations together, but if it's felt that that's necessary, then it might be possible that as the site selection process goes forward, there might be sites eliminated as the process goes along. And in terms of contemplated timetable, this fall is possible, but it also seems to me quick. But if we're not looking, if we're looking still 2 and at least 3 years, and possibly 3 years down the road before there's a new high school ready for occupancy. It may well be that it could happen in the fall of '04 or fall of '05, or depending on timetable, fall of '06, if we're still looking at those years before there is a new building.
Thank you. I'd like to recognize the Minister of Education.
I want to thank the honourable member again for the clarity of his question, and I can say to him that if neither of the sites of the QE or St. Pat's, if neither of those two are a site for a new facility, then we would not contemplate a merger of the student population.
Thank you, Minister. Recognize the member from Halifax, Chebucto.
I take it the minister means not contemplate a merger in advance of the building of a new high school. Is that right?
The Minister of Education.
Obviously, Mr. Chairman, if a single facility is built to replace those two facilities, then there would have to be a merger of the populations.
The member from Halifax, Chebucto.
That was certainly my assumption, Mr. Chair and Mr. Minister, and I just wanted just the trifle more clarity in case there was some other possibility on the table I hadn't been aware of, but apparently not. Well, thank you. I'd like now to move, if I may, to another aspect of education on the peninsula that is of concern to the parents. And this is a further elaboration of the French immersion question, but it has to do really with the closure of École Beaufort and the consequences that have flown from that. The minister was not the minister at the time that most of these things took place, but is probably aware of the issue. But I would like to give him a little bit of the background and a little bit of my understanding of how this issue has now played itself out. The question of closure of schools is, of course, always a very vexed one. And the decisions that were made by the Halifax Regional School Board with respect to that ultimately led to the closure of École Beaufort was a hard-fought process, and one that I think satisfied virtually no one who was engaged in the process. Certainly the families that valued the program that existed at École Beaufort and who hoped to see their children stay together in one facility have remained very upset about the situation. The minister may recall that when the school board finally did decide to close École Beaufort, it was at a time when his predecessor became involved in the process, exercising certain powers that she had, both legal and powers of persuasion, to try to work out some details with the school board. And the crucial issue for the parents after the decision to close the school was the question of keeping their children together in the same grouping that had pre-existed. Meaning they didn't want their school closed, but if it was going to be closed, they wanted the children who were enrolled in French immersion at that level of their schooling to stay together. Unfortunately, what occurred was a redefinition of the catchment areas by the school board and with the agreement of the minister's department. This was highly problematic because the redefinition of the catchment area meant that not all of the children were able to stay in the school across the street, that is Le Marchand St. Thomas. That meant they were no longer together with their former schoolmates. This has been an ongoing difficulty, and it's one that is an issue that remains an irritant for all of the families involved. What I'd like the minister to understand about this is that that many of the parents who choose to send their children to French immersion have seen actions of the Halifax Regional School Board and, on occasion, actions of his department as being what they would regard as hostile to the program. And The difficulty here is that the parents see the program as being partially funded by federal dollars. They see the program as adding value to the quality of education that children are offered. And yet they see a series of decisions that move their children around from school to school in what seems to be a fairly haphazard and arbitrary fashion. One of the parents, very memorably at one of the public meetings, described the school board as treating their children as stocking stuffers. That is, they can just take them and move them around in order to top up the numbers in different schools. So this is the, I have to say, very strained state of relations between parents of French immersion children and the school board, and to an extent the minister's department. And I think this is not peculiar to the Halifax Peninsula. I've spoken with French immersion parents in the whole of the metro area, and